When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Michal Cotler Wunsh is Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism and will be speaking at an event tonight about how to empower communities through education in a bid to fight against anti-Semitism. That conversation will be held with her father, the Honorable Erwin Cotler, as well as Barbara Kay, a columnist for the National Post. And she joins us now on the line. Michal, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Elias.
I would just love your take off the top here about what you've seen since October 7th of last year. Maybe we should start off with Canada, the incidents of anti-Semitism that the Jewish community has faced in this country. I would love your thoughts on what you've seen over the last almost year.
So look, Elias, in an almost unfathomable fashion, what we've seen around the world, in Canada included, and obviously it's particularly painful for me to witness, is a tsunami of anti-Semitism in the aftermath of October 7th, which was the worst attack of Jews since the Holocaust. We have to remind ourselves it's almost a year since 1,200 human beings dancing at a peace festival or sleeping in their beds under barrages of rockets were not just targeted by those rockets, but were burned alive, raped, mutilated, massacred, and abducted. 101 hostages remain in captivity by Hamas, a genocidal terror organization designated as such, including in Canada. And the unfathomable piece of it is, of course, that in the aftermath of the worst attack of Jews since the Holocaust, war crimes, crimes against humanity, what we would see is not just silence and not just denial and not just justification, but in fact of Jews around the world, including in Canada, on campuses, on streets, targeting businesses, targeting individual Jews. And that is a devastating moment in which I would call a never again is now moment for humanity to witness. And again, as a Canadian, for Canadians to witness, because I often say anti-Semitism is not a problem of Jews. It is a problem of anti-Semites and of the places and spaces in which it is allowed to infect and thrive and percolate and spread.
And, one thing that we've seen is that it comes from all directions. It is coming, whether it's from the extreme left, the kind of stuff we've seen on university campuses. We also see it from the extreme right. So maybe we should get into that. It does seem like something that is not specific to one movement. The anti-Semitism seems to be pervasive in all parts of society. In light of that, how do you fight it? Tell me about the challenge in fighting it.
So first of all, thank you, Elias, for asking that question. I think it's the most critical question to be asking. And anti-Semitism has a definition that actually enables us to transcend, whether it comes from the extreme right, the extreme left, or any other extremes, the focus being on extremities, and anti-Semitism being a predictor of what those extremes mean for, as I said, the places and spaces in which it spreads, and predicts their collapse. Anti-Semitism has a definition, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition, the result of a very long democratic process that was adopted by more than 40 countries, Canada included, by more than 1,200 entities around the world, enables to identify comprehensively all strains of what is a shape-shifting, ancient hatred that develops new strains, if you will. We've all become viral experts post-COVID. We understand that when viruses mutate, the first or older strains do not die out, but new strains are not inoculated against if we do not identify them. Well, what the response is to October 7th and to the war that has been raging since on the state of Israel, we very, very seldomly hear of the more than 9,000 rockets that have been targeting Israelis by another proxy of the same Islamic murderous regime in Iran, that is Hezbollah or the Houthis in Yemen. But in fact, it's not just October 7th, although that would have been bad enough. It is a more than 11-month war that has been raging openly declaring intent to annihilate the state of Israel and to murder Jews. And the fact that what we have seen since is this tsunami of anti-Semitism demands that we identify all of its strains, all of its examples, all of its forms, because if we sort of identify only some strains of a virus, well, we're not going to be able to combat all of it. To be able to identify something, we first have to define it. And again, I underscore the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition is the single definition that enables to identify and combat all strains of what is an ancient and modern and now mainstream and normalized mutating hatred.
We are with Michal Cotler, Wunsh, Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism. So, Michal, you're speaking in Montreal tonight. You're going to be joined by your father, the Honorable Erwin Cotler. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about taking to a stage with your father to talk about a subject like this.
Well, the first thing is just to apologize that actually tonight he will not be able to join me. Barbara Kay will be joining. But I have had the honor of sharing stages with my father over the last few years, and having learned everything that I know from who is a true human rights warrior. And in addition to being, former justice minister, really what's been most important, I believe, to my father and has driven him throughout his entire life is the human rights struggles of those who are voiceless. The devastating piece, including in sharing the stage with him in this context, is, of course, not just that he is also Canada's first special envoy for combating anti-Semitism, but that it is, in fact, his life's work and my own set of expertise, human rights, that were co-opted and weaponized systematically to enable what you mentioned before, which is what we see on university campuses or in the streets, just yesterday in Toronto, a few weeks ago at U of T, under the guise of human rights, the understanding that those that are protesting are not protesting for Palestinians, but actually are protesting in support of Hamas, Hezbollah, genocidal terror entities designated as such that are proxies of a murderous Islamic regime that does the very same things that happened on October 7th to its own people, execute and rape and poison. And the understanding that it is human rights that have been appropriated, co-opted, and weaponized, if you will, to enable this recent strain of anti-Semitism that has turned Zionism into racism and Israel into an apartheid state and Israel into a country that perpetrates genocide, even as, all blood libel, even as it defends itself from genocidal terror organizations, is, I think, the most devastating, but also the most eye-opening in sharing the stage with my own father and his set of expertise, and the understanding that this then, in fact, makes it an existential moment and an important moment for allyship, not just for the state of Israel, that is in an existential moment fighting for its life as we speak today. I'm sure your listeners have seen the barrages of rockets now launched by Hezbollah from Lebanon, not only for Jews around the world that have been attacked in this tsunami of anti-Semitism in the wake of the worst attack of Jews since the Holocaust, but in fact, for all of us who cherish, who value, who share these understandings of human rights as being the most important principles that were created in order to be applied equally and consistently so that everybody should have the freedoms, including those that are the sort of, I think, a pinnacle of what it means to be a Canadian, right? The understanding that it's those human rights values, principles, institutions that have been appropriated and weaponized, that endangers all who cherish the coal mine, if you will. Jews may be the bloody canary in the coal mine again, but that predicts the collapse of the coal mine again. In this sense, it is the sort of plight of all that recognize this moment as an attack on our shared humanity, on our shared civilization by barbarism, sheer barbarism, which October 7th made very clear.
Michal,
the intent of those that perpetrated. Yes.
Michal, we have to leave it there. I just want to say I hope you have an enjoyable and productive visit to Montreal, and I want to thank you so much for having some time for our listeners this morning.
Thank you. And I just want to say that everybody has a role to play in this. This is not, as I said, an issue for Jews or for Israel. It really is an issue for Canadians who take our shared values seriously. So thank you for the opportunity.
Michal Cotler Wunsh is Israel's special envoy for combating anti-Semitism.